welcome back to the Basement Gun Shop. So a couple weeks ago, I guess about a week ago, a friend of mine sent me a text with an idea for a Basement Gun Shop episode, and I guess I'm going to follow through on that right now. A friend of mine who's a new gun owner just picked up his first handgun. It's a little Glock subcompact 40 Smith & Wesson, and he wants to make sure he's getting his gun cleaned properly. Well, first off, it's a Glock. You don't have to clean it. I've got friends who have more Glocks than I do, who they've thrown theirs literally in a puddle in the backyard and let it sit there for a couple days and let the puddle dry up and took it out and shot the gun clean. Glocks are ridiculously resilient to being dirty and functioning properly even when they're dirty. But if you care for your guns the way I do, which is meticulously, he wants to make sure he's getting it right. So oddly enough, I have a Glock right here that's dirty because I shot it yesterday. So let's spin the camera around, look down at the work surface, and we'll go over how to clean your gun. And this translates to pretty much how to clean any handgun, regardless of whether it's a 1911, whether it's a Glock, a Smith & Wesson, a striker-fired Smith & Wesson, or one of the older, second or third or fourth generation Smith autoloaders. So let's reposition the camera and we'll get started. So we've got everything necessary for cleaning. We've got our little toothbrush and a bore brush and some hops number 9 and some break-free power blast and a Glock disassembly tool. So let's get started. First thing you want to do is always safety check your firearm. So let's, oh, look at that. Got around there. Nothing there. So you got a chamber, you got daylight, so we're good. Typical Glock disassembly. Once you've safety checked it, pull the trigger, pull the slide back, push down on the takedown levers, which don't seem to want to function for me right now. I hate these things. I've said that before. I either get one side or there we go. Alright, so you get the safety levers, you get it broken down into basically its major parts right here. Slide assembly, frame assembly, pull the recoil spring off, pull the barrel out, and basically this is as far as you need to take a Glock down to field strip it and clean it. This is basic field stripping. You really don't need the disassembly tool or the armorer's tool until you decide to go beyond that. For example, removing the striker and the parts from the slide, or removing the actual action from the frame. So let's get messy. First thing I like to do is just absolutely slather on the hops number 9. They should make a cologne out of this stuff. I love the smell. So get the toothbrush in there, scrub everything around. And like I said, this is just what I do. For every gun owner out there, there's another unique way that they clean their guns. I like these toothbrushes with 2 different size bristles on it. That way I can come in from the underside and get below the extractor and just scrub that out in there. These are nylon brushes, so you don't damage the frame, or I'm sorry, damage the finish. So that's all slathered up with hops. We'll let that sit. Go back in here. Work some hops into the spring. But that's it. Scrub down the outside of the barrel. And this is just, scrubbing down the outside of the barrel. You can basically wipe this off with a rag. But I'm just, kind of ridiculous about that. Get your bore brush. Dip that in there. Run it through. And then let that sit. Ooh, that rag's a little shot. Give me a sec. And then scrubbing out the frame. What I like to do with the frame is just clean it, lay some on there, lay some on there, back here, use the big end, get some on the cruciform and the spring and the trigger bar and all that other stuff back here, let it soak in, along the rod, inside the mag well. And basically just scrub out everything that and everywhere that you think some powder residue is going to get. And that's it. You've scrubbed out the barrel, you've scrubbed out the frame, you've scrubbed out the slide, and then at this point it's just a function of spraying everything off to get all the dirt off and everything else. I like a really non-viscous spray, such as Break Free Power Blast or Birchwood Casey Gun Scrubber. I actually prefer Gun Scrubber, even though it does tend to leave a bit of a residue. The guys at my local shop accuse me to drink this stuff, but I do use a lot of it. Spray that all out. Set that aside to drain. One thing I will caution you, this contains toluene, which is one of the components in dynamite. So it is extremely flammable, but it's really good. Typically I do this, I spray it in my coal bin. That way it's not soaking into the wood on my bench, but for the purposes of this video it's kind of hard to take the camera over to the coal bin. One thing, if you have aftermarket sights on your handgun, especially the True Glows like I have one here, you have to be careful not to get too much of these harsh chemicals on the sights, because they'll cloud the plastic and you won't get as much light accumulation from the plastic as you would want. Another reason I use a lot of this stuff is it breaks up any old oil and flushes the old oil out, so you don't get that gunk and mung buildup and everything else that you sometimes get if you don't really go crazy on them and clean them out right. So, there's a clean Glock. In parts, but a clean Glock. So, lubricating, where's my oil? There you go. I have a little thing of a little bottle of Break Free right here. I'm a big fan of Break Free. There's all kinds of other quality oils out there on the market. Rem oil from Remington. Hops makes a really good gun oil. Here's some Militech that I use on other parts. Although this is a finish you have to prepare. You have to spread this on, heat the part to firing temperatures, and then let it cool down, wipe it off, reapply. So there's more work involved with this. I typically use this on rifle parts like ARs, AKs, SKSs, stuff like that. Alright, so let's put it back together. Glocks run, everybody knows, or should know, Glocks run on minimal lubricant. So I will put a drop of oil right in there. Run a little bead along the barrel. The drop of oil in here because this is where the barrel cams down when you shoot it, so that's a metal to metal ride in there. Anywhere you have metal to metal riding, you want to make sure you got a decent lubricant. So on the recoil spring, 1 or 2 drops there. Get some into those inner springs. Get some on those outer springs. Put that back in the gun. Well, back in the slide. And then on the frame, typically what I'll lubricate on the frame is I won't worry about this part right here, the locking block or the unlocking block, camming block. But I do tend to lubricate the cruciform and 1 or 2 drops down in here where the trigger bar and the transfer bar meet. The back end of the cruciform right here. This is what actually rides on the metal tab on the striker, so that's a metal to metal fit you want to lubricate. The trigger bar and the transfer bar right here. Down inside the frame there's another metal to metal ride, so you want that to be lubricated. The trigger, that's kind of plastic. Plastic has its own lubricity, so you don't really have to worry about that. The slide or the magazine release, I don't do anything with that. Just get 1 or 2 drops. Come on. And that's pretty much it for lubricating the frame. Slide rails, absolutely. I will put 2 drops of oil on each slide rail and reassemble. I think I have the recoil springs in incorrectly. Okay, we're good. What the hell? Really? There we go. Striker was in the wrong position. So, that's it. Carry feeding of a Glock. And then, of course, function check. And that's it. Of course, once you got your handgun reassembled, there's always a chance you got excess oil on it somewhere. So you want to wipe it down with a moderately clean rag. Make sure everything works. Since this is my carry gun, I like to just go over how it looks. I'll take a nylon brush. And, you know, carry guns, they collect lint, they collect all kinds of mung and stuff like that, especially in the sights. I'll just take the brush to the sights and get that done. Simple as that. So there you have it. First, like I said before, since this is my carry gun, it comes out, it gets cleaned, reloaded, and put right back in the holster where it belongs. So that's just basic field stripping, basic cleaning for a handgun. Anywhere you have a metal-to-metal ride, you want lubricant. Because of the location of the lubricant, you want to make sure before you relubricate your firearm that obviously it's clean. The soot, the carbon, the dirt from shooting it, from the gunpowder residue, that will, you know, like anything, turn into a really thick mung depending upon what kind of oil you're going to use or what kind of lubricant. A couple years ago, there used to be a product on the market called Super Lube that was just fantastic. I thought it was just fantastic. I can't find it anymore. The only drawback with that was that in cold weather, it turned into something akin to Jello, because it was just basically liquid Teflon. And you would spray it on, the solvent would evaporate, and this stuff would congeal into a glob of Teflon. Truthfully, it almost looked like Vaseline. And then in the winter, it would get even thicker, and some semi-automatic guns wouldn't function because of it. So that's something you need to pay attention to. A good, thin viscosity oil in the right places, lifetime of work. Don't flame me if you're one of those guys out there who thinks you don't need to clean your Glocks. If that's the way you care for your Glocks, hey, I'm fine with that. I don't care. But as I've said so many times, I actually like cleaning my guns. So, deal with it. I'll tear them apart, rip them down, and put them right back together. So, as always, if you have any questions or comments, write down there in the comments section. Like the channel, subscribe, even better. And until next time, stay safe and keep shooting.